Hi, this is Marie Conser. I'm an Oregon real estate broker, and in this episode, I want to talk about home insurance with Troy Noland. Troy, hi.
Hi, Marie. Thank you for inviting me to your Zoom meeting today.
Yes, no problem. So, can you tell us a little bit about you?
Yes, my name is Troy Noland. I'm an agent with Farmers Insurance Group here in the Portland area. I've been an agent since 1993. We really specialize in personal lines insurance, middle income to high net worth people, also licensed in commercial and life insurance as well.
Wonderful. And full disclosure, you're actually my agent
Yes.
for my own insurance needs. So, thank you. Troy, we have winter weather here in Oregon with rain and wind, and I've heard some friends who had water damage and wind damage. So tell us a little bit about how we can, from an insurance standpoint, prepare from a homeowner's, insurance standpoint.
Sure. Well, first of all, yeah, most policies will cover wind damage, depending on the area of the country you live in. So we'll address that one first. Wind damage under our policy is considered an act of God. And so an example would be the windstorm we had 2 nights ago on the 13th, where a number of trees either blew over or blew off large branches. Under the policy, if that were to happen and a tree falls, first of all, it needs to hit something other than the ground. So if it hits your home or it hits a separate structure, which in this case could be fencing around the property or a shed, for example, at that point, you do have the ability to file a claim under wind damage under your policy. Most carriers, including Farmers, it tends to be a non-chargeable claim, which basically means that they're not going to surcharge you for the event, as it is considered an act of God. One of the interesting things that comes up with this claim is that most people believe that the person who owns the tree is actually responsible for the claim. That is actually not the case. It only matters what it hits. So for example, if my tree were to blow over and hit my neighbor's house, the neighbor's policy is actually going to be responsible for paying out that claim. And in most cases, they are not able to come back on the owner of the tree unless there's some evidence that the tree was not properly maintained and was already posing a threat.
I'm glad you're addressing that because I had that question actually. I did take down a tree that was bothering my roof and gutters and was getting really tall, and I was concerned about it damaging my neighbors. So I ended up taking it all down. But that was a question I had actually in windstorms for that particular tree. What if it damaged the neighbor's house? So it's good to know.
Yeah. Case the neighbor's policy would pay it out minus their deductible.
Got it.
Uh,
So go ahead.
I was going to say water damage is a little bit more complicated. Water damage is covered under home policies, but the definition tends to get a little bit more specific. The best definition I give people in layman's terms is immediate and sudden water damage. And so let's just use the act of a falling tree again. If a tree were to fall and, let's say, punch a hole in your roof, and as a result of that, water came rushing in during a rainstorm, generally that type of event is going to be covered. What is not covered under most policies is if there's water damage caused to, for example, by wear and tear issues. Your roof is just getting old and needs to be replaced. Or secondly, we'll see people wondering if their policy is going to cover them because they have water seepage coming in through windows, which generally is due to a wear and tear issue, or especially recently, water seeping into the foundation due to the amount of water in the ground. That generally, in most cases, is not going to be covered as well. So seepage through the foundation.
That's a tough one because I'm aware of several people in my circle, whether other real estate brokers or friends of mine who've had events like that recently with a heavy rain we've had. And it's tough to call your insurance company and realize that event is not covered and it's all on you.
Yeah, and
So how would they
clarify.
address this if they wanted some sort of coverage for this? What is the
Yeah,
path they need to take?
well, first of all, I want to clarify that point a little
Sure.
bit. My recommendation, first of all, is always, if it is a gray area, which we see a lot oftentimes in water claims, dig into your policy, look into it a little bit, contact your agent, and if necessary, file a claim. I've told multiple people, look, I'm not an adjuster, I'm an agent, and I'm not the ultimate decision maker in that whether a claim is accepted or not. And so if it's a gray area, I always recommend filing the claim and letting it go through the process to determine whether there's going to be coverage in place or not.
Good
As
point.
an agent for 27 years now, we're probably on our fifth generation of home policy since I've been an agent. And so those policies are always written a little bit differently. And so it's worth the time to dig into that and possibly determine whether we need to file a claim and let it go through its process.
Gotcha. So if you want a very specific area, I mean, we all hear about flood insurance, which is
Sure.
a category of its own. Can you speak to that?
I can. The flood insurance generally is not part of a homeowner's policy. It's what we refer to as a standalone policy written separately. It is not a policy we sell very often. In most cases, it is issued due to a home purchase where the lender is requiring that flood insurance be purchased as well due to the location of the property. And in many cases, that limit of coverage is capped. In many cases at 250,000, regardless of the amount of the purchase of the property, and it will also include limited personal property coverage.
Okay.
I
So,
want to clarify as well that a flood policy is not going to cover an instance of heavy rain where water seeps through your foundation just because it's building up in your yard.
okay. Very, very complex in the end. What I'm hearing you say is wind is a lot more black and white. Wind damage coverage is more
Yes.
black and white. Well, water, it's more about take a look at your policy, connect with your agent. But your ultimate advice is file the claim, let the process look at the situation, because everybody's situation being unique, that might be approved or not approved. So.
Yeah, I think that's correct. I think if it's a gray area at all and you're really unsure of whether the policy is going to cover it or not, I think you are better off filing a claim and walking through that process. Again, assuming that it's going to be above your deductible. If the damage is below your deductible to begin with, then that's not necessarily really to proceed down that road.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Troy. I appreciate your time today, and thanks for the insights.
Yeah, and thank you, and best of luck to you in 2021.
Well, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.